Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Leal in this incarnation. I am here today to talk about this transit that is already gestated in the sky. I'm talking about the square between Saturn in Pisces and Jupiter in Gemini. Saturn is retrograde right now. And we have to know, you have to know that in mathematical degrees, this is going to continue until even January of 2025. So it is something that is going to stay in heaven for the past of these months. I don't know if I am expressing correctly, but in August, we are feeling this transit in a very strong way. I'm going to explain you why. Also in December, they are going to, get closer to the mathematical degrees because Jupiter is going to be retrograde. So, I'm going to talk about that later. Today, we are going to focus on the transits that we are going to have in August. So, for the people that have planets between the degree 14 to 21 of the mutable signs, Pisces, Sagittarius, Gemini, and Virgo, they are going to feel this transit much stronger, or angular houses in, the mutable signs. But we are all going to feel it because we all have mutable signs in some area of our natal charts. And if you have luminars, the sun, the moon, or personal planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, you are going to feel it in a very strong way. So, this square is going to be created by Saturn and Jupiter, but we also have Mars participating in August. Mars is right now in Gemini. It is going to do a conjunction with Jupiter and also a square with Saturn. And by that moment, we are going to have also Venus in Virgo. So they are going to create a T-square, what we call in astrology T-square. So this is going to involve all the mutable signs, even Sagittarius, even if we don't have planets there. So this is going to be reinforced by the fact that Mercury, it is going to be a retrograde. And all the planets that are in Virgo and in Gemini are responding to that Mercury. So I have to warn you that it is not a good moment to travel. It is not a good moment for traveling. Of course, if that has a divine purpose, it is something that you truly have to do, and that is something that your soul will tell you. You can do it, of course. Astrology is not to condition ourselves. It is just a tool that we can use to apply it in our daily lives. But it is not a good moment because bureaucracies, delays, these kind of things are certainly going to happen with all the tensions and Mercury retrograde. Also, especially if, traveling is used as a way of escaping reality or assuming important decisions, that it is not a good choice with tensions with Saturn, because Saturn is this planet associated to responsibility and maturity, to the healthy boundaries that we need to learn to establish. Jupiter is this planet linked with the sense, the purpose, the divine purpose, the seeking of the truth, the expansion, the abundance, all of these things. So they are different qualities because Saturn is this contraction and Jupiter is expansion, and we have to find a middle point between these two planets. And this is going to be reinforced, as I said, by the presence of Mars. Mars is the planet through which we take action for our desires. Venus is the planet that is associated with our relationships and the things that we give value to, the resources. So all these things are going to be involved in these tensions, The T-square is formed by oppositions and squares. They are all tensions. So this is calling us in a very dynamic way to do a labor, to practice, to be more flexible. This is very important with mutable signs, and to open ourselves to new perspectives, because if we don't do that, probably we are going to get very, very frustrated. Frustration could be something when Saturn is participating in tensions. So first, I'm going to talk about the polarities in the individual way, and then I'm going to talk about how we can channel this, because there is a big opportunity in here to create expansion in a very, very solid way, but we have to be very committed to our own soul. So I'm going to talk about that first, and at the final part of the video, I'm going to give my perspective also of how this is going to be channeled more in the collective way, because they are both social planets. So, well, polarities, the dualities of these transits. Indecisiveness, a lot of options that we cannot embrace, excessive information. The mind could be overcharged, and Saturn will show the limitations and restrictions that are pushing us to choose something, to assume the responsibility of choosing something, of assuming decisions. But also with Jupiter, there could be, this other polarity of, doing something with excessive trust, uh, without asking ourselves if it truly aligns with our own soul, because not every opportunity is actually aligned with the sense of our path, our own path. So there, Saturn will put a stop. And I have to say this, and many times as transits between, squares between Mars and Saturn could be, experiences that are very frustrating, because it is like I want to move forward, but life is bringing me these obstacles or limitations. But we have to understand that limitations and obstacles are showing us something, and it is very, very important to ask ourselves, what is that? In many cases, it is about, the doors that are closing. It is because those are not the paths for us, or maybe it is not the way we are approaching the situations, the way we have to do it. In other cases, this is because we have to redirect the energy, but also because, the two polarities could be, with Jupiter choosing the immediate satisfaction, the distraction, staying a lot in social media, spending time there. With Saturn could be the excessive self-exigency, like the high demandings of the ego, or even could be a challenging of what responsibility is, because many times people could think that responsibility is to assume the loads or the charges that society is imposing to them, or the family, or whatever thing. And here we will have to align with what truly is, responding to that intuition, to our soul. I mean, responsibility is actually responding in alignment to our soul, because that is how we can create something that is truly conscious. So, well, this is very important to understand. Then, the ways we are speaking to others, the ways we are communicating, because Mars and Jupiter could be, this very impulsive communication, saying words in a very aggressive way, trying to impose our beliefs, trying to impose our perceptions, our perspectives. And then, having regrets of the ways we are communicating with people. We could talk more than we should. So this is very important to take in account, also with the transit of Mars and Jupiter square Saturn, because Saturn will show the lesson of maturity linked with that too. Then we could have the optimism. This is a polarity of Jupiter, the optimism as a mechanism of denial of reality. From my perspective, optimism is truly optimism, is understanding that behind every situation that seemed to be negative, actually we are having a lesson, or there is an opportunity of revelation, of light. But when we are using optimism, for example, when we are in situations that actually are not contributing, when we are acting in ways that are not contributing, or staying in spaces where we need to put boundaries, Saturn, and we are not doing anything, and we use optimism as everything is going to be right, but I am not doing clearly anything to change the situation, then optimism is a mechanism of denial. So here it is very important to stay alert, linked with that, talking about that kind of optimism. And well, the self-exigency, and the information, the conversations. It is very important to ask ourselves if they are nourishing us, if they are really operating with a divine purpose. Because if we are using information, or social contact to distract ourselves from what we really should approach in our life, then that will show also a lesson. Well, I think that I told you the the dualities, but I'm going to talk about more later, certainly, because as I said, this will last for months. So how we can channel this in a more centered way? Well, boundaries in the ways we are speaking, boundaries with ourselves in our mental patterns, because we are going to have a lot of mental overcharge. Establishing boundaries with the time that we are spending in social media, with the information that we are consuming, with the people that we are spending. Boundaries are going to be very, very important. If an obstacle or a limitation appears and it is frustrating us, of course, allowing frustration, allowing the feelings, the anger, because Mars is going to participate. If you have to channel the anger in a certain way, move your body, do something, hit a pillow, I don't know, but it is important to allow that emotion to move out through the body. Then it is important to understand that it is not a good moment to choose escapisms and distractions. And well, practices that can actually help us to descend more to the body, and then Venus in Virgo could help us, because excessive rationality, it is not a good guidance. The mind, it is not a good guide. It is the intuition, the real guidance, and then we practice to align the mind to that intuition, and that is how we can grow, spiritually, evolutionary, and also in the material reality. And well, I think that's the main thing, approaching what truly has sense and what is truly constructing. Because if we focus like that, then this period could be, an enormous expansion. It is committing to ourselves to create expansion in certain areas of life. Could be something very, very nice, the product, the results. Well, at last, I wanted to comment more in the social, in the collective way, because I think that this will have an impact on the educational system. Both of them are rulers of the laws. Jupiter, from a more abstract sense, from the structures of thought that are veiling for justice. But Saturn is, linked with law from what is established in the reality, from what is a paper telling, or, for example, if a person is stealing, well, we know that this operates in different ways, but especially here in Latin America. But if a person is stealing, that is, a transgression, so that person is going to prison. So that is Saturn, it is the one that is showing the consequences and the effects of not being responsible. But truly, the forces of both Saturn and Jupiter are truly more amplified than what the egos many times can admit or observe, because Saturn, it is not only talking about assuming the responsibility for the structures that have been built as a collective. It also is showing us, how we have to be responsible of the things that are invisible. In terms of our mind, of our emotions, of our intentions. So that is a recognition that we can only do, that no one on the outside will see, but Saturn will show, certainly. So Jupiter, it is the same, Jupiter is this planet of expansion and abundance, but it is truly showing us how we should put the focus on something that is really aligned, again, with our soul. I know I repeat this too much, but it is very important to take this in account in the planetary ascension, in the whole planetary ascension. So Saturn, it is also a planet that it is the ruler of authorities and institutions. And it is in Pisces, which is a sign of unity, spirituality, but also endings. So something it is dissolving in terms of structures, authorities, and institutions. And Jupiter is the planet that rules the education, the superior advanced education, but it is in Gemini, which is linked with schools, And the other day, I heard, sorry, of a study. I looked for that in the internet, and a lot of pages confirm. So I think it is true, but you can look up for it yourself. There is a study that it is commissioned by the NASA. That was commissioned by the NASA because this study was from the 60s, and it was in a group of 1,600 children. They were analyzing the creative capacity of these children, and the 89% of them were almost genius. But what happened is that through the process of educational system, the traditional educational system, they started to lose that capacity of creation. And when they became adult, only the 2% of them could sustain that capacity. That means that the system, it is like turning off the gifts and the capacities that the souls came here to express. It is not a system that is designed to help children to find their own purposes, to find their tools, to develop their creativity, their particular gifts and abilities. So I think that this tension, it is like the preview of, what we are going to see in the entrance of Uranus in Gemini from 2025 and on. What I'm trying to say is that I think these tensions will bring an emphasis in how the educational system, the whole educational system, is built in obsolete structures of thought. And well, many people could feel resistances in terms, linked with this. But I think it is also important to understand that the educational system not only have to collaborate with, to expand what the children came here to do, the souls of the children came here to do, but also offering knowledge, not only rational, but also in terms of the mysticism and the energetical, because that is how this reality is built. So I think the need of a new education is re-emerging with a lot of strength. But as I said, this will be more evident from the transit of Uranus in Gemini. So, well, I just wanted to comment a little bit of this. I'm going to keep talking, certainly, of this transit. Thank you, everyone. I am ending this video here. Ciao, ciao.